Welcome to Alpha Kappa Psi's webinar titled How to Create an Ideal Image. This webinar is part of the Professional Development Series. My name is Mackenzie Lauka, and I serve AK Psi as the Associate Director of Education. I'll be your webcast producer. Before we dive into the content, I would like to review the web-based features available to you. This webinar will be advanced remotely. By the bottom of your screen, there are multiple application widgets you can use throughout the program. I encourage you to utilize the widgets to download additional resources, connect with other attendees during the presentation, and share highlights via social media. A copy of the slide deck and other additional materials are available in the resource list widget that looks like a green folder. The group chat is available for you to interact with other attendees and the presenter during the presentation. When posting, it will share your first name and last initial. If you have any technical difficulty, please click on the Help widget. It has a question mark icon and covers most common technical issues. Additionally, each of the windows on your screen are also able to be resized, moved, and adjusted to fit your individual learning need. At the end of the program, I'll explain how you can ask a question to our presenter. If you have a question throughout the program, however, you can launch the Q&A widget to submit your question. The questions will be asked at the end of the program in the order they are received. Be sure to also check out our social media content. Portions of today's program will be tweeted using the hashtag AKPsiChat. You can follow along using the Twitter widget in the menu dock at the bottom of the screen, as well as post highlights to your own Twitter feed using the hashtag. You may also find some valuable resources on the AKPsi blog, Facebook page, Instagram feed, LinkedIn page, Twitter feed, and our YouTube channel, each of which are available from the akpsi.org homepage. Most people do not want to take a step back to move forward, but sometimes that's exactly what we need to do, just like working on your image. You need to look at your goal and be willing to pivot accordingly in order to achieve your desired outcome. Featuring Muniza, a young lawyer from Pakistan that moved here to the United States to further her career, as an example, we'll examine professional dress and clothing for different body types, as well as how your image has an impact on the way you're perceived. In addition to covering these topics, we'll leave time for your questions and comments. For the presentation, we have one presenter. At this point, I'd like to introduce Leslie Hill. Leslie Hill has worked and traveled the globe as designer and developer for Spiegel Catalog, Icelandic Design, and Vera Bradley. She founded Hill Image LLC to create an avenue that would merge her fashion experience with her desire to spread happy. At this point, I'll hand it off to Leslie.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for attending. Again, we are going to go through a presentation today or this evening that will cover how an image consultant works with their clients, but also how you can achieve these same results within yourself and your own abilities. You will want to utilize a lot of these techniques to elevate your image. And the reason you will want to do that is, regardless of where you are within your career or your career advancement, you can utilize these techniques to really power yourself forward. So right here on this first screen, we are meeting Muniza. And again, Muniza is a young lawyer from Pakistan. She moved here to the United States, and she was going to go back to school to really advance her career. She decided to take a position as a paralegal, which is a pretty major step back when you're looking at it. Oftentimes when we are growing in our career, we are always thinking about the next step up. But oftentimes you will find yourself maybe having to pivot a little bit. You may have to step aside to move up. You may have to go slightly backward to move forward. So don't get discouraged in that, no matter where you are in your career. Muniza provided me some looks that she really gravitated to when I asked her. I said, you know, I can make you anybody. Who would you like to be? What styles do you like best? What are you gravitating towards in fashion? And so these are the looks she really likes and would love to wear on her own. Before we even go shopping, it's important for me to understand what kind of coloring you have. And yes, that has to do with warm and cool and neutral tones. And oftentimes there's this funny little trick, if you can figure out how to do it. If you can look at your wrists, pull your sleeves back and look at your wrists, And I think we all know that the veins within our skin carry blue and red blood cells. But at the same time, if you can look at it objectively and see if your veins look green or blue, if they're looking more green, which is pretty much the majority of the population, you will see that that's going to give you warm tones in your skin. So that's always just a fun little trick. Check out your veins, do it with your friends and your family. What color veins does everyone have? Check that out, and that way you'll know right off the bat whether you're warm, cool, or neutral. There's also this great little concept. Think of printing yourself off in black and white off of a printer. So think about what you're wearing right now, your hair color, your eye color, everything. And actually, you can do this if you have a printer available. Print a photo of yourself off, just in black and white. What we're looking for is the contrast levels here. So for myself, I think you saw from the beginning photo, I have blonde hair, I have fairly light skin, and fairly dark eyes. So my contrast level is, and I'm going to be more towards the lighter end of the spectrum. So I'm going to go kind of this medium to light zone. Now, if someone had really dark hair and they had really light skin, then their ability to wear contrasting colors goes through the roof. So those are the people that want to wear black and white. The rest of us that don't have much contrast, those colors, the black and whites, are going to stand before us. People may see our shirt before they see us, and we don't want to do that. We want everyone to see us all at the same time. So try that tomorrow at work. Print a photo of yourself off and see where you come in on that black and white grayscale. And here is an easy way to see the difference in what color can do for you. So the trend this season when we worked through this was all of that beige and light pink and very much of a nude color, and it just did nothing for Muniza. However, when we really incorporated her skin color and into consideration the contrast level that she had between her hair and her skin, we put this bright, rich orange color on her, and look how amazing that is in contrast to the trendy color on the left. Men, this is the same way. Oftentimes you think of a suit and you think of a black suit. Anymore, I will confess that a blue suit is the go-to, no matter what. And that should be a little sign to all of us women that black doesn't really look that great on most people. And you can see this because men are always ahead of the game. Right now, there's a ton of camels, and whether that's in corduroy or flannel or something that has some texture, you will always see camel in their wardrobe. We have these wines that, the gentleman on the left-hand side, these wine colors, deep. Browns are coming back in, which is something you probably won't see for females. Usually if blue is season, then brown is kind of nowhere to be found. If brown's the hot color, then navy's nowhere to be found. But with menswear, it's fun because brown is actually coming back in. Purple shirts, pink shirts, coral. You have that run the gamut in menswear right now. And that is so exciting because you can really utilize that to your benefit. Now here we're talking about body shapes. And body shape is something you definitely have to take into consideration no matter if you're female or male and no matter what age you are. So I'm sure there are a number of you on the call that have, you've gone on the internet or you've researched what your body type should be, and you're pretty positive you have about 4 of those body or body. And don't worry, you're not alone. That's exactly how it works, because just like color, nothing is really cut and dry. So for Muniza, she definitely will hold some shape within her hips, and so we will focus on that, but we also want to focus on the smallest part of her waist. And so we've kind of clicked both of those two for her. She's definitely not a rectangle if you remember her shape. So we want to go away from that. An oval, not necessarily, because she still has shape within her waist. Although she does carry some weight in her waist, it's not the prominent figure. And then she is definitely smaller shouldered than she is hip width. So we are going to focus on this triangle and hourglass figure for her. And this document right here is something that I actually provide for all of my clients when we work together. It just gives you, if you ever see any of these throughout this presentation that have the little drawings, this is something I physically hand to someone so that they can take this piece and go shopping after I am done working with them. Before we go shopping, I or any image consultant will go at least an hour before you get there. Usually 2. It all depends on what your budget is, how many places you need to go within your shopping extravaganza. And so we pull everything before you get there. We now know what your body type is. We know what your coloring is. We know the styles that you really want to look for while shopping, meaning we know what trends or what, remember those first few slides that we had from Vanessa. So we knew what style she really wanted to go to. And we pull what we think would be best for you, and we put it all together before you even arrive. And when you come into the store, we just escort you right back to the fitting room. So again, when I went shopping, I took into consideration all of the styles that she really liked. Just like for men, I'm going to look for whether or not you want to be the hipster, you want to be more the classic gentleman, or maybe you're not even that formal. All you need to do is get some looks, whether that's for dating or you just have a more rugged position. You're not necessarily in the office. You just want somebody to tell you how to dress, how to pull off the look that you want to go for. So you really have to determine that, and that's what everyone should do without hiring anyone. Really be intentional about the look that you want to achieve. Now for Muniza, we said for her body shape, a bootcut pant would be decent because of her shape and her legs. A tapered pant would be fantastic because of her height. She was only 5'2", I think, and I'm pretty sure the majority of people under 5'4" look great in a tapered leg pant. Now, if you look on the internet and you see that you are a so-called pear shape, they will almost always tell you to wear a wide leg pant. But I have to disagree with them when you are under a size or a height of 5'4", because you will always, your line will look longer if you do a tapered pant. Here you can also see within the photos of Muniza the way that the different shapes of her pants. So the shorter cropped pant is actually a great proportion for this longer sweater. However, it really shortens her. So having the longer full-length ankle pant is better for her. We do the same thing with skirts. So for Muniza, again, we're going to look for something that's going to really enhance her shape. So this gored or flared skirt is going to look fantastic. Anytime you see these blue lines, that is where I'm telling you that the shirt should hit on your body shape. So if you're wearing the straight skirt here, if you can bring up the shirt length, then that means you're not going to look like a rectangle. So you're going to continue to give yourself shape. However, with the pencil skirt, bring that down a little bit just proportionately, because the pencil skirt's going to come down a little bit longer and you're going to narrow your line. So you won't end up looking like a rectangle. And as far as the dresses go, for her, for Muniza, the defined waist, whether that's a wrap dress or something of that nature, is going to be her ideal shape. And this is just a visual of the different shapes that she could wear. On the left, we are emphasizing her smallest portion of her waist. And if you could see the photo up close, it actually has little seaming down the front, right underneath the bust to maybe the top of the waist. And that just really emphasizes that smallest portion of her body. And the skirting actually flares out just slightly, or is almost just a straight skirt. So you really can't tell where her hips and thighs are in there. You focus on the smallest part of her waist in this dress. The dress in the middle is cinching right at her smallest waist again, at her smallest spot, and then there's a cascade of fabric coming down, which is not fully right in the center. It's off to the side a little bit, and that is where your eye goes. So it lengthens her body as you're looking down, and that was probably one of my favorite dresses on her. However, the photo on the right was phenomenal because where maybe, again, she did carry some weight around her middle, and this goes for males, females, if you can create a waist for yourself without actually using fabric or styles that is hugging to your body shape, this is going to be your best ally, because here it camouflages any kind of weight she may have. However, just the tucking up underneath and blousing out of the top portion of that dress, cinching in around that elastic and then draping back out over her hips, she's creating a waistline where she may not have the greatest waistline. It may actually be higher for her for the smallest part of her waist. But where this is hitting, it's creating a waistline for her. Now for men especially, and definitely for women, but for men especially, and we'll get to that in the next slide, fit is a must. And oftentimes we feel like we're going to go to the store, we try clothes on, and then they don't fit. And so we leave and we're completely depressed. We feel like we don't fit into anything. Maybe we needed to size up, but our size is this size and we're not going to go up. It can be a very frustrating experience. However, I don't know if you caught it, but I designed for 15 years. So as a designer, I can tell you right now that only one of the companies I worked for, one, had a fit model. That means we are using specs or measurements, and all we are doing is grading up and grading down. We never see what that actually looks like on a person. So if you can imagine, how is that going to actually work on a real human's body? It probably isn't going to do that well. In theory, it's brilliant. It's mathematics. How can they lie? But I am here to tell you that it does not always work. And in reality, it just rarely works. So here, the blue dress, if we needed to, what we would do is we would sew, or we would alter from the arms. So we would actually go up to the shoulder seam and pull that up completely. That would raise the armhole length so you wouldn't see her bra right there. That would pull up the bust area so it wouldn't be as droopy looking. It would cinch the waist at the right spot on her, and it would also pull up the hemline on her just slightly. Below for the orange, where this is a gorgeous piece on her, and the only problem was that it was a little snug through her hips, and so it's cupping under her belly a little bit. So what we would do there is, if you loved this dress, now oftentimes what happens is we get completely attached to clothes in our closet. And if we were all in person right now, I would have you raise your hands and tell me whether or not you have clothes in your closet that you no longer fit into, but that you are unwilling to give up. And I am going to promise you that half of you, at least, in the room would be raising your hands. we all put an emotional attachment onto some form of clothing, whether that's you put it on and you feel amazing, and so this is the dress that if somebody called and you said, I'm coming to pick you up, this is the piece that you would put on. If you didn't know what to wear and there was a wedding coming up, this would be the piece that you could wear if it's wedding appropriate. But there's all this sentimental attachment that we put onto clothing. There will even be, a lot of my clients will have things hanging in the closet that say they wore 20 years ago. They'll pull it out and they will not want to get rid of it because maybe their baby was born and right around that time this was their favorite top. Or maybe someone gifted this piece of clothing to them and they will always remember that person, and so they don't want to let it go. They may have never, ever worn it, but they don't want to let it go. So there's all this emotion around clothes that I think we forget that we actually put on pieces that are tangible pieces. So what we really have to do is divorce ourselves from the emotion when we're buying or when we're going and evaluating what's in our closet right now. Now the blue dress that Muniza is wearing is also too snug. It's in the best style. This is something that she really wanted to purchase, but there wasn't a size up and there was no way to alter it. So we had to say goodbye to it. Now what she could have done is actually, there may be a designer near here. She could buy it. She could take it to a designer, and that means just a seamstress, and maybe they could create a pattern out of it. I mean, there are so many things that we restrict ourselves from thinking about that we could do just to make ourselves happy, because every morning it's what we are looking at ourselves, and almost our whole day can sometimes be ruined just if we don't feel good about ourselves. Now, at the same token, you have to think, if someone were to walk in to your office or enter an interview or something of that sort, and they were wearing a dress like any of these three, which are almost there but not quite, this is what we're calling blockers. There's so much that a person has to offer someone. There's so much knowledge or so much technical information or emotion within a person that we have to share, which is why we were created. However, if the exterior is not polished, then we get hung up on these little things. And so we would just be staring at her dress and we would hear nothing that she had to say to us. This is a great visual for men. Same thing. So the first gentleman, where it says before, he's in a suit that fits him. It's completely appropriate. It's in a fine color. But when you look at him in the updated suit right next to him, you can tell he looks much more current. He actually looks much more powerful in this suit, all because it's updated. It's slimmer, sleeker. His shoulders look broader. The tie that he's wearing is a little bit thinner than the tie that he's wearing on the left photo. And that is something that seriously can make or break a job. It can make or break your image within a company. It can even make or break your complete reputation. Someone may be working with the gentleman on the left-hand side, and they think he's a great worker, but he keeps getting passed up for new positions. He can't figure out what he's doing wrong. He works with an image consultant or something of that sort. He starts dressing much more current. He definitely provides this elevated status as if he has more power than he did before, and all of a sudden now he's promoted. Similar situation in the middle. You can tell this gentleman looks 100 times better on the right than on the left, and this all has to do with fit. On the left, his pants are much more classically shaped. They're probably even maybe a little bit too large. The jacket is by far too big on him. Look at where his shoulders are coming to. They're actually dipping in on the side by where his upper arm muscle, his tricep would be. He just looks like a little boy dressed up in his father's suit. However, when he alters his jacket and he doesn't have all of that fabric pooling down at his foot, his image is elevated immediately. Now, you don't want to get crazy and go too tight. We all need to be comfortable. And I will tell you, we always hear all of this about women's underwear line, panty lines. You never want to see a woman's underwear line under their skirts or their dress pants or whatever it may be. However, then the trend for men is to wear these boxer briefs. And that's fantastic, but the second you get into too fitted of a pant, you can see the line of a male's underwear. And that's just as distracting as seeing a woman's line of her underwear. And I think we all completely pass this whole concept. But it's a big one, and you really want to make note that if your pants are the slimmer fit, that they're not too small, so they're not gaping at the pockets, you don't have all the wrinkles around the thigh, and we cannot see your boxer brief line. Here's a great visual of a slim fitted shirt. On the left, it's just off the rack. And if you notice, my favorite difference here is the shoulders. He looks much softer on the left-hand side simply because the seams of his shoulder seam falls off the side of his shoulder. And on the right, it's exactly where it needs to be. So it's squaring off his shoulder. The sleeves are a little bit slimmer. I mean, he probably looks like he dropped 15 pounds. And what we call that is it's called shirt fat. So fellas, while you're going out to get shirts, seriously, try to take every single one of your shirts into a tailor to have them fitted correctly. And if you have the ability, look for tailor-fitted clothes. It will seriously it will repay what you've spent on the shirt. So typically a tailor-made shirt can be anywhere from $120 up to $300. Now if you're thinking you can go to Express and get a shirt for $80, try that. Try a slim-fitted shirt first. But oftentimes, if we're going to shop, we find the neck width, say it's a 16.5. Well, then the width through the torso, you could fit two of you in there. But it fits your neck, so you buy it. You don't think anything about it. But the difference between a gentleman that really knows how clothes fit and like they're elevated, their status is elevated, is the difference between a well-fitted shirt. It really is. Who doesn't want to look more powerful? This is a fun slide to me because of the fact that I can make you look like anyone. You can go in and buy something and you could look literally like anyone. So you really have to determine and be intentional about how you're shopping. So in this first photo, we chose a dress that was right for Munize's body, a jacket that would have been the correct length. But we did this on purpose because this is definitely not her style. If she had chosen adjectives for others to use when describing her, these would not achieve the adjectives she wanted. Not bad. It would work for someone older than her, but on her, it doesn't work. Now, the one in the middle was cute, but again, it didn't achieve the adjectives that she wanted. So this was much more of a casual look. Now, when you look at the photo on the right, this hit the nail on the head. The jacket had see-through arms, so it gave her a little bit of a posh look. She looked very metropolitan in this without having to wear all black. The black doesn't stand out. It's not so deep on her because of her dark colored hair. And yet the green, which is kind of this army colored green in the pants, look amazing with her skin tone. So she really hit the nail on the head with this one, and this was hands down the best outfit. When you're shopping, you have to think about it like this. I will tell you that that jacket was probably $100, and we were just in Steinmart. And the pants, I think, were maybe $40. This was more than Muniza wanted to spend. However, when we talked about it, we didn't go and leave the store with bags and bags of things in our hands. We left with only the pieces that achieved her adjectives. Only those pieces that she could wear multiple different ways, have less in her closet, but that really elevated her. And that's really something you have to try for, everybody. We did the same thing with tops and jackets. Now, for Muniza, a defined waist would have been a little too much for her because she did carry some weight through her stomach. The blazer would have been a much better opportunity to show off some curve, and that blazer needed to have some structure in it. And I will show you exactly what I mean right here. So when we're talking about blazers, the funny thing about this slide, if you're working with me, is I could tell you, okay, go get a blazer, maybe you should use a peplum top or maybe a dolman sleeve. Okay, go shopping. That may not be enough for you because there are so many different styles, and how do you know what you want it to look like when it's on your body? So on the left, we chose a shorter jacket that had a lot of shape in it, and so she looks phenomenal in this. It's emphasizing, you know, your eye goes from the top all the way to the bottom of her dress. However, your eye kind of stops a little bit. It pauses right at the smallest part of her waist, and it's a great look. It didn't achieve her adjectives as far as professionalism, but it was really cute, and she knows that if she's going to go do a jacket and a dress, this is the best way to do it. The photo in the middle is phenomenal because with the jacket, with this style of jacket, she kind of has two vertical lines going down the front of her because of the way the buttons are placed down the front. You can see just by keeping the jacket open, your eye moves down her body more easily, and it doesn't stop at one horizontal line around her waist. We've extended underneath the jacket by extending her top down just a little bit lower. So it kind of plays with the eye as you're looking at her. It gives you two places to look, and it doesn't create a line, one horizontal line around the largest part of her body. It breaks it up. You have the vertical lines and the pants that go all the way to her ankle. So it's much more slimming look than maybe the photo on the right. The red may be a little too blue for her. She definitely has much more warmer skin tone, and this red is much more cool. Now, everyone will say it's because of the horizontal stripes, but I promise you that it is not. It's because with Muniza's bust and the length of her torso, the one button of the jacket isn't enough. If she actually had a two-button jacket on, that might solve the issue of the pulling, because the jacket fit her just well. It was fine. But the way that it's closing right here, it's leaving some excess fabric to kind of pool in an X. And on a male and a female, you want to completely get rid of that X made at your body because it makes you look heavier. So we could change this to a two-button jacket, or we could leave this open. But because it has that blue tone to it, it's much better to just move on, actually purchase the look in the middle than it is to purchase the look on the right-hand side. I do want to encourage you, if you have questions, start writing them now, because I am more than happy to answer them when we're through. I want this to be as interactive as possible without being interactive during the presentation time. Now on this screen, if we were all together and I could see you, just pretend we are and raise your hand for me like a goofball in the privacy of your own home or your own office. I want you to think about which of these tops looks best on her. So if you were shopping with her, raise your hand if you think the photo on the left, the purple one with the florals, would be the ideal top. Okay, now raise your hand if you think the top in the middle is the ideal top. And all the rest of you who have not raised your hand yet, because you better have been raising your hand. Now you people are going for the one on the right, or the left. So this is the cream colored top. So now that you've put in your votes and you're thinking about it, I will tell you that though I really want to go for either the orange or the purple, the best piece on her is the cream color top. And I will tell you why. If we look between the purple and the orange, both colors are great, and the way that the pattern is coming in on the purple looks phenomenal because it's coming in at that diagonal, and a diagonal line will always slim everyone, male or female. But I would actually go for the purple over the orange, even though right at the very beginning we said the orange is fantastic, we should go with that. Really remember we were talking about color at that point in time. So here on the orange you can kind of see maybe, or maybe it's just because I was there and I know what the shirt looked like, but it's similar to the shirt on the left where there are two different layers. So the bottom layer is pulling. It's a little too tight on her, so it's not draping as well as it possibly could. It's just because it's hitting at her hip at that point where it's her fullest. So that's why the purple one wins out over the orange. And the reason the cream wins out over the purple is simply because of that top layer. It is creating more shadows, it's lengthening her waistline. It really is slimming her more than the other two items. And by having that top layer and those shadows that are coming from underneath that top layer, that is creating a slimmer waistline for her. Whether or not it's real or it's envisioned, it's getting the job done. And so that's why we would choose the cream top. If you have any questions, start to write them down because I will answer them at the end. Gentlemen, if you live in the Midwest, I am going to guess that if you were to get dressed, you're going to go golfing, or you're going to go out with your wife, or the kids have an event and you are kind of wanting to look dressed without actually feeling dressed, you're going to wear a polo. And although everyone in the United States wears polos, not all polos are equal. And this gentleman swore up and down that it would be better for him to wear the blue polo because of the fact that it was a master's polo over the polo, this grayish green colored polo on the right. Now I said, I realize that the Masters is a signature event and it symbolizes money and classic looks and just old world style. However, just because it has the emblem doesn't mean that your overall look makes your look elevated. So if you throw on a pair of khakis, which is usually the go-to for gentlemen around, especially the Midwest, you throw those on, you do an untucked polo, and you throw some gym shorts on, though the majority of people that you see at this event will look just like you, none of you will look your best. And I'm sure you all might want to knife me at the moment for speaking the truth. But I will tell you that A, shoes make the outfit, men or women. Now, men, you make fun of women probably more often than not for how many shoes they have. But they make the outfit. So putting on a pair of tennis shoes is never going to put you in this elevated image area. It will always take you down a notch. Even if tennis shoes are popular, they have to be the trendy kind of tennis shoes, not your gym tennis shoes or basketball shoes. So what we do is I get a polo that actually fits you. We tuck it in, we match your belt to your shoes, we put on a longer short that is current, and all of a sudden, even though it's the same, technically the same pieces that you were wearing before, you now look metropolitan. You look like you care. You look much more attractive than you do from the photo on the left. And again, I'm so sorry if that's rubbing anyone the wrong way. I'm just here to tell you the truth. Coats and jackets are so fun. So oftentimes what happens is we, gentlemen and females, we get a wool black coat. Maybe it's pea coat, maybe it's just a regular button on the front, but more often than not, it's a black pea coat of some sort. Now I'm going to guess that the majority of you have animals at home, and there's lint. So you have dog hair, maybe cat hair, you have lint, you have everything that you could possibly think of being caught on this black coat. But you're thinking, man, black goes with everything I have. I have to get a black coat. Now let's think about what's in your closet. I'm going to guess even if you have gray pants, you have red pants, you have blue pants, you have a darker green pant. You could be wearing a red coat with all of those things. You could be wearing a blue coat with all of those colors. So really try to think outside the box when you're going for a coat, especially in these cooler climates where the very first thing people see is your coat. And when you leave them, the very last thing people see is your coat. So try for me in this next season or right now when all the coats are on sale, try to go for a coat in a different color. And that will make a ton of difference. Now I think it may be time to answer some questions.
All right. Thank you, Leslie. That was a lot of really good information covering a lot of wide range of clothing topics. So at this time, you're right, we do want to get into our question and answer. So as stated earlier, you can launch the Q&A widget from the menu dock to submit your questions. This feature will remain open even in on-demand viewing, so if we do not get to your question, we will respond later via email. Let's go ahead and get started with the first question we have here, and that's what's the best way to dress professionally but on a college student budget?
I would love to find out where you live because I will always say that secondhand stores are your best friends. So it may be Goodwill, but you have to go to a Goodwill that's kind of upscale. So I know if you're in Fort Wayne, Indiana, which is where I'm located, I know the best Goodwill to go to. It's always the one that's on the southwest end of town. It's usually one where there's more money. So if you're in the Indy area, it could be Carmel. If you are anywhere around, if you're in a major city, try to think of the areas where they honestly have the most discretionary income. Go to those secondhand stores. You'll know what the fabrics are going to be like after wash, so how they wear. You'll be able to see, they won't shrink because you know they've already been washed and laundered. You know, I even heard, I worked with a stylist out of New York City. She was the stylist for, Trump's thing. Oh, what's the show on there? I can't even think. Apprentice, Celebrity Apprentice. So she was the stylist for that show, and she also had her own style shows on TV. And she told me, never ever buy brand new shoes. Go to secondhand stores, because if you think of how many pairs of shoes that you buy and they hurt your feet and so you only wear them once and then you donate them or you consign them, they've only been worn once and now they're less than half the price. That's brilliant. Those are the things that I would not have gravitated to, because you think all these weird, funky things are going to be in the shoe, but it's so true. How many shoes have you worn before that hurt so badly that you physically cannot wear them again? Or you buy them and you can't return them, and so now you're just stuck with them. So try secondhand stores or ThreadUp. Try that. You can try... there's a bunch of online consignment stores that you can look at too if there isn't a really good one for you to have access to where you live. So that's my suggestion.
So a sort of similar question to that, but what is the best store in your opinion to buy professional business casual clothing at an affordable price?
Well, it depends on where you are in the country. Macy's is usually a pretty decent one to go to in their suiting area. They're going to have labels like Tahari and some others that are going to be good enough for you to definitely get the basics no matter where you are in your career. You could have been working for the last 30 years and going to get a Tahari suit or something from this Macy's line is going to be just as good as getting something that's designer. If you wanted to go to something a notch down from that, you're going to be wearing through it a lot. So there are stores like New York & Co., which is super cute. It's always trendy. Those are going to be better for your dresses. Maybe some trendy yet classic sweaters. But when you start to get into your suit pants, they may not, well, I know, they're not the best quality. So especially if you're men, you want to get 2 pairs of suit pants for every jacket that you purchase. Men, if you go to Men's Warehouse, that's one that I tend to like a lot. They're just very kind in there. They have their own alterations opportunities there. You can buy lots of different things as far as brand name jeans, like Silvers, and you just have a lot to work with out of Men's Warehouse. So hopefully those two tricks will help you there.
Wonderful. The next question we have here says, how can you look for something that really looks good on you, but is going to be easier to care for, such as they take public transit a lot and are a little worried about wearing nice pieces out?
This is where if you can wear a jacket, it's going to extend the length of wear for your suit pants or your skirt. As I completely understand, as you're getting on a train and you're sitting down and there's been gunk from a million other people, or you're getting into a taxi even, whatever it may be, that's, if you can wear just a lightweight overcoat in the summer or a longer vest, that will really help elongate the lifetime of your clothing. I know that in cities, that's oftentimes why they're wearing black or gray. And if you want to wear those on the bottom, that's just fine. But even a dark brown is going to do basically the same thing as a black would do. If you're going to get dirty, it's going to show the same amount on black as it would as dark brown and navy. So don't steer away from color just because of that. They're basically all in the same intensity. And also, if you are more comfortable wearing a black pant, make sure you wear color up by your face. I know you don't have the same wear and tear living in a city on your tops as you do your pants. And so again, when you're wearing a jacket in the city, if you want to get something that is less expensive because you may blow through it quicker in a city than you are going to be somewhere where you're getting into your car through the garage and then getting right out of the garage and into your workplace. Think about that before you start buying it. Another tip is if you are plus size, I definitely recommend looking for nicer quality fabrics. And that leads you back to that budget concept. How am I supposed to do that? Look at the secondhand stores or consignment stores, because look for the better name brands at half the price.
All right, Leslie, would you suggest having closed or open-toed shoes for an interview?
Closed. I don't even have a lot to say about it. Just closed.
Easy enough. All right, the next question we have then is, how would you encourage men with a wider waistline to look slimmer in a suit, not wanting to look baggy but still looking proportionate?
Oh, I love this one, because I have, especially living in the Midwest, I have the majority of my clients are usually overweight to obese. And one thing that happens is somewhere along the lines we've taught men to wear pants underneath their belly. And it may not be even something they're taught, but it's something that we're also accustomed to seeing now, because that's what the men do. You wear it under the belly, around your hips, because you feel like that's your smallest point. And I will argue up and down with men and women about where their waist is. They'll always say, "Oh, it's down here." Well, those are your hips. So your waist is honestly, it can be 1 to 2 inches above your belly button. And that's exactly where you want to wear your pants. And this will feel so weird for quite a while. I have a lot of clients who say, I tried it and everyone commented about how slim I looked. I couldn't do it. Because you're not used to seeing other men doing that, but it looks so much better. So think about when you're on Pinterest and you're looking through, or you're looking through People magazine or whatever this may be. You see men, overweight men, say actors or whatever it is, they're wearing their pants at their waistline. And the jackets are coming down maybe just right where the end of your zipper is coming. And that's exactly how they should be worn, especially if you are an obese man. Wearing suspenders is your ideal image elevator. So wear those under your jacket or even without your jacket. I know it gets so hot, but having your pants hit right at that waistline is your best friend, because when you wear it underneath your belly, you have all of this fabric in your crotch. It's called the rise. And now, not only do people think that when you're heavy, this goes for men and women, but they just assume that you're lazy or that you're dirty or whatever it may be. It's horrible how we discriminate against overweight individuals. I mean, it makes me sick. But the fact of the matter is that they do, and any little thing that we can do to help remove that from their prejudices is going to help us in the long run. So wearing the pants at your right waist, and even if that feels so weird and you just can't do it, take it to the tailor and have them remove some of the rise, some of the fabric in the rise. It'll give you a butt. It'll eliminate some of that bagginess between the actual zipper and your knees, so it'll lengthen your legs, that whole thing. So hopefully that helps you, because it's so fun to see the difference and work with my male clients like that.
I think it's a great advice there. The next question we have here is, so what advice would you give to create the perfect marriage between physical, branded, and communicative ideal image?
Right off the bat, think of your values. So actually write your values down. What's important to you? And I think we all say it's my family and it's God and it's whatever's next, work or school or whatever. But be serious and really think about what they are. Where do you spend the majority of your time in your brain? So I know for me, I have a really hard time with creating my values or really stating and being honest with myself of what they are. I would love to say that my family comes first. And in some instances they do, but I probably, unfortunately, make work my first value, or my value over my children, or my husband, the whole family. And knowing that helps me adjust my days appropriately. So I think being honest with yourself about your values, then think of your adjectives and what you want others to say when describing you. So think of 5 to 10 adjectives. Use those 10 adjectives for everything that you're doing. That means when you go shopping. It means for shopping, think about leaving the house in clothes that you have already in your wardrobe. And what would people say if they were working with you on this particular day or interacting with you? Would they say you were happy? Would they say you were welcoming? Would they say you were credible? Because I'm telling you right now, if your clothes are not altered and fabric is pooling down at your shoes or your jacket sleeves are coming down to the knuckle on your thumb and you only can see half of a hand, you're not looking as credible as you could, even though you're wearing a suit. So do those two things. And then thirdly, all of this wraps up into how your voice is being heard. So when you're on social media and you're answering things or you're posting, there is a brand being created without you even thinking about creating one. I could go up and pull up this, we're going to say this, Jason Truong. I could pull you up and I could see exactly what you've posted and what you've liked, what your interests are, the photos of you. And for me, as an employer, as a client, as a friend, I am seeing you through eyes that you might not have intentionally put out there. You're just being yourself and you're throwing it all out. When you wrap all of that up, that's your brand. So the actual words that you're using, the tone that you're using, this is all you. And so just trying to be intentional about it is where we really need to live. Does that help?
I think it does. So we are at just about the 7 o'clock mark, but we do only have a couple questions left, so we're going to go ahead and answer those. So Leslie, the next one we have is, what are your tips for wearing watches, jewelry, and other accessories?
If you are a man, wearing watches is phenomenal. It will elevate your status. And it doesn't have to be a $10,000 watch. It's just a piece of jewelry that elevates your status without looking like you are wearing necklaces and bracelets and earrings or nose rings or something like that. It's another piece without being too flashy. So I think, gentlemen, that's fantastic. I think also, gentlemen, if you are going in for an interview, if you're going to wear earrings, I would do the smallest studs that you have, just to remove some of those blockers while you're in there. If it's a new client that you're working with, something like that, just wear the smallest studs possible if you don't feel like you could take them out. Females, I have this fun little trick, which I call the 10-piece rule. So every time you leave the house, if you can count at least 10 to 15, 17 pieces, then you will look completely put together. That includes your bra and your underwear. So if you have, say you have bra and your underwear, maybe pantyhose, you have shoes, you have a pair of glasses, you have your jacket, I can't remember if I said it. Let's just say you have pants, a shirt, a belt, you have earrings. You're going to have maybe 3 bracelets on one hand because stackable is so important right now. You have a necklace on. As long as you are not gaudy and you're over the top, matchy-matchy, if you're around 10 to 15 pieces, you're going to look put together. If you walk out of the house, you just have your top and your bottom on and a pair of shoes, you look like you put on clothes today, but it isn't really an outfit. Gentlemen, say for you, if you can count 7 to 10 pieces, then you will always look put together as well.
All right, so we're going to end out the night with this last question we have here. Leslie, what is a rule that can be universal for both genders that's kind of going to be the biggest takeaway from your speech tonight?
Oh, that's a good one, because I would say, hands down, it's that fit matters most. Have everything that you own altered to fit your body perfectly.
All right, so with that, we're going to end out for today. I'd like to thank all of our participants and callers for all you guys' great questions and comments that really add to the presentation. For any follow-up question or conversation, feel free to reach out to Leslie using the information that's provided on the screen. We'd also like to thank Leslie again for her great insight and expertise. Finally, we encourage
Thank you so much for having me.
We are glad to have you. I'd like to encourage you guys to look at all the additional resources provided by Alpha Kappa Psi. If you're interested in specific chapter operational-based resources, you can visit My AK Psi for webinars, e-learnings, and documents, which are found under the Road to Brotherhood. For any leadership and professional development resources, you can find those on akpsi.org. If you have any suggestions for future topics, please send them to education@akpsi.org. And again, thank you to our presenter, and thank you for joining us.